to deal with the construct that the Supreme Court gives us. And so the arguments we make, the pleadings that we file, make arguments within that construct.
That is Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul responding to a question I had asked him at the Illinois State Fair last week about the impact the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruen case has on how states are to defend gun bans or any kind of gun control law. Welcome back, Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop in the pre-recorded edition as we travel to the Democratic National Convention up in Chicago. But we will be live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning, giving you all you need to know about what's going on the ground in Chicago and a review of some of the conversations that are being had and so on. But definitely want to get this out for you as we're less than a month away from the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court and Judge Stephen McGlynn having a bench trial on the state's gun and magazine ban. In the saga that's been since it was enacted in January of 2023, lawsuits filed in federal court in both the Southern District and the Northern District, different outcomes on preliminary issues, those initial, requests of injunctions while they work out the meat and potatoes of the case and all the arguments that there are. Those preliminary injunctions having different outcomes in the Northern District and the Southern District. The Southern District actually granted a preliminary injunction that lasted 6 days where the law was blocked and people went and bought semi-automatic firearms. But then the appeals courts reversed that particular injunction, and then the appeals court sided with the state only on those preliminary grounds. And even these cases went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, but the U.S. Supreme Court said it's not ready yet. We need final action. So back to the Southern District, we could get final action sometime after September 16th when Judge Stephen McGlynn holds that bench trial to hear from all the experts and so on. But talking with Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul last week at the Illinois State Fair during Democrat Day, I asked him about, this how the state goes about defending these types of gun control laws.
We're in a country where there is a Second Amendment and there is rights that are born out of the Second Amendment. But with every constitutional amendment, with all the laws in our country, there's always a balancing act that we do, and certainly public safety is important in that balance. We've seen a number of mass shootings. We see daily in urban and even in rural communities uptick in gun violence. We see trafficking of guns into the hands of people who are ineligible to possess them, either because of felony conviction or because of other disqualifying factors. And there are people who engage in an industry to legally purchase the gun, then transfer them illegally into the hands who are ineligible to purchase them. And so that's something that we have passed laws. We've invested in a crime gun tracing platform so we can have crime gun intelligence to see the patterns, to detect the individuals who are involved in straw purchasing and transferring guns into the hands of people, again, who are ineligible by law to possess them. It's an important mission for us. We partnered heavily with the ATF on gun trafficking cases, and we've been successful in those efforts.
A lot there with the Attorney General talking about the efforts that are underway and all of the different types of bad actors that he's trying to go after, those who are trafficking firearms or buying them for people who shouldn't have them and so on. But really the bottom line, what about the Bruen decision, that New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruen decision that came out, 2022? Where you had the U.S. Supreme Court lay out that you can no longer have this balancing of interests, balancing somebody's Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms versus public safety. That's no longer the go-to. The go-to is text, history, and tradition, being that any kind of gun law has to conform with the text of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The history of that, and also any tradition of that. So that's the kind of context. Well, I asked the Attorney General, after that decision, how has that changed how a state like Illinois goes about about defending gun control laws like bans of commonly owned firearms like an AR-15.
Obviously the decisions that come down from the Supreme Court create a common law structure that we must follow in our arguments and in our policy making. And whenever we pass a law that has to deal with touches upon the Second Amendment, we have to deal with the construct that the Supreme Court gives us. And so the arguments we make, the pleadings that we file, make arguments within that construct.
So he recognizes there is a new construct, but they say that they're making arguments within that construct. One of the arguments that apparently are being made is these are AR-15s are military-style weapons. Obviously, we'll hear what the arguments are from the plaintiffs when we get to the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court and the experts testify in front of Judge Stephen McGlynn for a bench trial on the final merits. But we'll obviously watch that closely. But Raoul's not just defending laws in Illinois against challenges. He's also defending laws in other states by filing Friends of the Court briefs. He's got cases where he's filed with other attorneys general in Massachusetts and other places, like not just gun bans, but also prohibitions of certain people being able to carry certain types of firearms, like people under the age of 21. Can they have a concealed carry permit and so on? But I asked him about what's behind that and why go out there and defend other states' gun bans and gun control laws.
Yeah, so the effort to keep communities safe is not just an Illinois issue, it's a national issue. The problems that we may face in Illinois, whether it's a Highland Park or Washington Park or whether it's daily gun violence, are also faced in other states that try to move similar policy. And so I spent a lot of time with my colleagues, my attorney general colleagues from other states, both Republican and Democrat, and we try to work collectively on issues, and I support them and on certain advocacy as they support me on advocacy, and I think that's important.
So going out to other states and filing Friends of the Court or amicus briefs in those courts to defend different types of gun control laws, clearly that keeps the Attorney General's office pretty busy. But he's also busy in the state of Illinois. He has been defending not just the gun ban in the Southern District, which we've talked about. That's going to a bench trial September 16th. He's also in the Southern District with a case challenging the firearm owner identification card. And this is Myers v. Kelly. We've talked about this case in particular. And some of the latest there's a motion to stay by the Illinois State Police Director, Brendan Kelly. And this is a case challenging the FOID card, blocking people with past criminal convictions, like having drugs, for instance. And part of the motion to stay in the Myers v. Kelly case challenging the FOID card, most recently, just a little over a week ago, they filed this document that shows the plaintiff was actually arrested with cocaine back in 1990 or 92, but they've got this document here essentially showing a charge of possession and some other charges here. The defendant committed to a county jail term for 3 years. Fine of $1,000. You can see even more of these documents. So clearly, you've got this case coming down to should people who have prior criminal records be prevented from having a right to keep and bear arms, even if that was, 40 years ago almost? If not a little shy of, I'm thinking 83, 30 plus years ago. All right. So we'll watch all of this, where this goes, how that's going to be handled by the court with the FOID card case, but we clearly will also be following very closely what happens in the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court with the challenge of Illinois' gun and magazine ban. All right. That's all I've got for you here with Illinois in Focus Daily, a special pre-recorded edition while we travel to the DNC up in Chicago. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and get updates from the Center Square at thecentersquare.com, where you can obviously get the newsletter and be sure to follow us on YouTube at America's Talking Network each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily.
So